Good morning. I made it here. I got to be quick. Got to get on the road, pick up my daughter at the airport, as I mentioned. But if I do this before I get going, the weather here is awful. But so yesterday was a little bit of a wild ride. It was a power move down. Just kept moving down, lower, 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 as it entered the void down below as it broke those lows, and was kind of thinking, of course, it would get down here, but buyers stepped up a little before that, and we did get in down here as it made the turn. And my monitors are blanking out here with the stream. And I scroll this back to point out this pattern is perfect. I mean, if we could find these every single day, about being a pattern trader. I mean, every method is going to have its limitations or where things don't line up the way you want it. And that's part of why we use bar by bar analysis. So not to be restricted too specifically, but there are textbook patterns. And this was just doesn't get any better. And I'm going to point this out. That, it was making lower highs and lower lows. And then the momentum began to slow. We talked about this many times. And then it made the higher low down here. And so as it made the turn, I think this is where I know I did here, and then I did again. S&Ps, Qs, I even did at the advice of Alex, the Russell, which I don't do as often, and that worked out really well. But this pattern that we call a 1, 2, 3, 4, some over the years but it's a wide range bar igniting a move. You get the inside bar at the number 2 bar where it could take it out. And then this is just why I call it a money bar, because I can't remember a time when it fails. And this one is just textbook, where it takes out the low, it forms a bottoming tail bar, it closes at the high, and it just starts its move up. And, at that point, it's like, okay, it should just keep going, till it hits some area of overhead resistance. And, of course, you look to the left, and this was the target area, and it got up here, and, then it started to pull back, and of course, the end of the day. So it was a beautiful move off of the low. The S&Ps moved up, some of the financials moved up, and the Qs lagged a bit, as they typically have this year because of interest rates and all. But it was just a perfect move off of the low there. And so here we are, pre-market and craziness. So with this turn, right, besides the holiday, normally the day before a holiday, things do well. But we've got this messy pattern going on here. We've got this overhead resistance to deal with. Let me just see where prices were. They got kind of close. And you can kind of look at this as a Bear Island reversal, right? It gapped up and it gapped down. So we've got this overhead congestion. Kind of leads me to think that it ain't getting above here, and it's not getting down below here. And it's, maybe going to be a messy day, and it's starting out with a mess. I guess there was some news here. I'm not paying attention, but, it whipped up and whipped back down. So there's a lot of uncertainty about, what's happening here. Good morning, Fabio. And, we got this bottoming tail bar. So earlier in the week, I talked about this angle of retracement. And here we thought, okay, maybe it can get up to the 20. And then the gap down yesterday on other news. So it's been a news-driven market all year. And you don't see my YouTube button, Dan saying. We'll fix that, Dan. And so this kind of a pattern typically results in a period of consolidation, because when you get this kind of erratic price action, things have to calm down. How do I define calm down? Range contractions. So we've got this range expansion. There is this level of support. It didn't get down there. You see when my alert was down by the pivot, didn't get down there. So buyers were a bit more enthusiastic, to step up ahead of time. We did look at this closing low as a reference point, and it didn't get to that closing low. It just got a little above it. Of course, it's a dead cat bounce, Tony. Whatever it's going to do, I don't even know how far it'll get, but we'll have a better idea next week. But as we go into the end of the year, most of the time with the holidays, the markets are bullish. And so they're not going to be as bullish as they were a year ago or in the past. I don't remember each time, but, this kind of a pattern, regardless of holidays or whatever, the angle of retracement, the failure up here, it's a mess. So I think, just thinking wise, I don't think that many are going to be so, enthusiastic to sell aggressively and not to buy. So, we're still going to have to be nimble in trades, and, put spreads should be fine. You're going to have to go out to next week to get the premium and so on. So just quickly, SPX. I'm not going to be here in the morning, first thing, an hour or two, but I would want to be above 3,900 or 3,750 or below. And so, and that's, down here, it's down near that closing low down here. And it's not what I would call a no-brainer, because this isn't a downtrend. It's whipping around. But 3,900 or better, and below 3,750. You can see things are moving down, and 37, yeah, it's increasing. So now you can get down to 3,740 as the markets are moving lower. So, you want to be close to this support here, ideally. So NQs, just they didn't rally as much. And, it's an inside day here. Probably, I don't think it's going below this low today, and it certainly ain't getting back above that high today. So it's just a mess. And so when you see something like this, don't trade it. It's too erratic. There'll be individual stocks. And the Dow went down and up, same thing. Now, if this cannot, and look at this price action here on the hourly, if this can't make any headway, I don't know how much it's going to be today with, probably light volume and people leaving early and all of that. It's just a pattern. Just if I forget news, if I forget holidays and I see this pattern, I'm thinking, okay, it's erratic and whippy. It'll settle down a little bit and it'll go lower, right? Lower to where? Well, at least down here. And then we'll just see what happens. Welcome back, AG. Russell, as a day trade yesterday, I mean, everything down here was just so textbook perfect for making an intraday bottom. And you see the same 1, 2, 3 type of a pattern there, 1, 2, 3, 4. You just wish to have this kind of setup every day. All right. What are interest rates doing here? Up a little bit. Well, that's market ain't gonna like that. As this started its roll down a couple of weeks ago, we said, this is where it's going to make the turn, and it's doing it. So markets haven't liked this all year. And the dollar has just been a mess down here. As I mentioned earlier in the week, you've got the yen going one way, the euro going that way, the pound going the other way. And so this is kind of just got things just jiggling around here. I don't have that unison. And not looking to do anything there. Gold is just flip-flopping around. Transports yesterday, you got the bottoming tail bar with a big topping pattern. So we don't have any kind of no-brainer setups for sure. And the weekly, it needs to come down lower. I don't know whether this is going to make new all-time lows. I think for the moment, based on the end of the year, based on our internals having come down to an extreme. And I'll just point out many times prices do make a lower low. And the normal setup is breadth doesn't get as extreme, but if it does or it doesn't, even if it goes down there, when it comes, prices get down here, sentiment is here. If it's in the cards to come all the way down to the October low, I don't think that's going to happen in one fell swoop. I think there's going to be some kind of attempt to go higher, just based on these internals being in agreement. However, we saw yesterday, this is down there and it's going to get there. And this is going to be, with interest rates perking back up, tech has been under pressure all year because of that. And, this is going to make new lows. I just can't imagine that's not going to happen. And how low is it going to go? We'll figure that out as we get into next year. But keep in mind, there's a tremendous void down below here, and I'm hoping it doesn't get all that nasty. And what is more likely to happen, rather than that going all the way down, the S&Ps will stabilize ahead of time. So our downside target earlier in the year, was for it to come down here, and it didn't happen. They stepped up early. So now we'll just see, maybe get a retest here. Exactly, Tony. So look, when the internals are in agreement like this, and if you remember what I said, well, in the letter, not everybody gets the letter, but I don't know if I said it here. I said most times in a bear market, sentiment gets down, just going back many, many years ago, this got down to 1.4. And now that it's through the lower band and this is here, it just tells us to, start looking for long setups, because typically it's going to bounce. And so we're down there. And we got this bottoming tail bar, just based on what I've already explained, until it settles down a bit, it's unlikely that it'll go back up. Now, we had a little discussion yesterday about options and open interest, and the options expiring at the end of next year. There's a huge open interest in puts and calls at 4,000. So the clock is ticking on those, and we'll see if this kind of acts as a magnet to move back up toward there. But it's going to have to deal with 3,900. So I think it's going to be stuck there for a little while. I can do it quick. My daughter, that plane is coming. It's probably going to be a little messy landing here at Fort Lauderdale. So this typically results in lower prices. The markets are weaker. Institutions, we're all over it. It gapped up, who knows, shorts, whatever, on the earnings that they did better. It cleared all of these pivot highs. So that's a positive. Short term, it's got this void. This type of a pattern, when you see this kind of big gap up on earnings, the most bullish thing it could do is just chop around here for a while, because, it's got to deal with this resistance, absorb that supply. And, if it can do that, it'll go higher. So it's going to have to deal with the market environment. But for the next 2 weeks, I think it'll probably be stuck in some range, which, probably will have a difficult time to get back above, or to get above 120. And, somewhere in here is typically where it's going to hold as it chops around, if that's in the card. So I would say any dips toward the 200 and the converging 20 there would be where buyers would want to step up. And I think it'll be in this range here for a little while. So all yours, Dan. I'll be back, Rocco. I'm just going to pick her up and drive back here. And then, Dan's going to be leaving to, continue his trip. So I'll be with you for a while.
Good morning. Sound check. I have my headset on. Hope it sounds good. So I agree. I think it's going to be we're going to stay within the range today, and it's going to be pretty boring. I was actually a little surprised of this, the way this pre-market is whipping around here. Look at my spiders upper right. So yeah, total mess. You know, everything Greg said. Look at these crazy whips. I mean, based on yesterday's close, beautiful bottom as Greg reviewed. Based on the close, closing with a bear sandwich on the 15-minute, I would have said if we open flat, you know, higher, you know, but not a big target. Now it's just whipping around here, 180 reversal. So I think it's gonna continue to come in, but wow, it's not a very interesting setup at all. All right, so let's see what we have. We don't have many. We're actually flat in the weekly options trader. Pan W here, I see. Looks great as a put spread over yesterday's high, a Climo on major support. Ethel, I changed them. Can everyone else see my charts? I'm showing my screen. Try refreshing. No. Greg.
Yeah, I haven't. You're the host. You should be able to show.
Okay, a lot of people are saying that they're saying Nike still. I'm on Pan W. I'm showing the right screen. I guess.
Is it a green border around it? Yeah, I'm changing, just clicking a different symbol just so you can see. If it's, I see Pan W in
yeah, that's what I have
in the stream. So
all right, but a lot of people saying Nike. So what do you recommend to them?
I guess refresh. Peter sees Pan W. So I think you're good.
All right, yeah, sorry about that, folks. If you can just refresh is the best I can say, or X out and come back in. All right, so Pan W put spread over yesterday's high. I like. Tesla has been beat up in the news again. You know, click on Dan's view. Okay, thanks, Lawrence. Tesla's not a great Climo because it's steady selling. I like the pickup in volume and closing at the low. So if it's gapping up a little bit, if it's able to take out a 30-minute high, then I will consider a 0 DTE. There's no way I trust Pan W better than this for a week. All right, everyone see that? What FT's saying? Thank you for that. And let me copy that FT in case other people ask later. I will tell them that. All right, perfect, thanks. So Tesla would be a possible 0 only. Let's see what else we got here in my watch list. Home builders, you know, greater than 100% retracement, bottoming tail. There's another housing number coming out at 10. I have a couple in here that are showing relative strength. And I say this is a perfect example of relative strength of the stock versus the market. Do y'all remember 2 weeks ago we did the AB Optometrist MT live? This is like a no-brainer. This DHI, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inside bars of this WRB. Yesterday, taking out the low, closing at the high. At the 20, 50, XHB. Look at that. I mean, this one's not even close. Of how much stronger DHI is. Vernus, we're actually in already. Today's Friday. We triggered on Wednesday, but you can add over Wednesday's high. TWKS, big old bottoming pattern. Look at this. Big old retest here. This is an inverse head and shoulders that actually broke out. Oh, yeah. That's what I was saying, Alex. Yeah. Of course, I'm waiting. Yeah, 10 a.m. number. That's correct. So this is a head and shoulder, excuse me, head and shoulders breakout with the failure of the breakout, but it's totally acceptable because it broke out. And this is a great example of when Greg says it has to repair the damage. This has now repaired it. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bars here at the converging 2050 bottoming pattern, price void, bullish weekly. I mean, well, it's not a core. I'm not crazy about the weekly, but at least the weekly confirms the bullishness of the daily. So that's on my long list. TTC, gap reversal on earnings. Now it's gapping up. That's 30-minute high. That looks fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna get rid of Tesla here. And I'm just on my laptop today, traveling, so I don't have all my thumbnails. So if you all can help me, but TTC is tier 1. So let's keep an eye on that. Some others you can just set alarms, but TTC is tier 1. So I put it in a 5-minute chart. Yields are rising, as Greg said, so that's going to be a headwind for equities. Splunk, this is repairing the damage now. So there's nothing to do today, but I keep it on my list. This is a potential bottoming pattern. This rhythm we were trying to sell out of the money 22.5 puts, but they're too illiquid. But this was a buy setup, and now gap reversal closing at the high, 30-minute high. That looks good. Riven's a Climo. Do you see how this one, Climos, even though this is steady liquidation also, notice how this one is a lot farther away from the 20 MA than Tesla. See the difference? I mean, they're both Climos, but I don't have the confidence that it's made the turn yet. Rig, Debbie brought this to my attention about a week ago, and I've been watching it. Still worth watching. Daily, weekly, monthly. I'm not ready to hit the mouse. All right, so pins is making, its turn here. We talked about that. Okta still looks good. It's technically not a 1, 2, 3 because of the tail, but I read it the same. So that actually looks great also. I hear this NTNX is kind of a gap and snap. But I'm going to put Okta over here. Okta looks great. Over yesterday's high, which hopefully doesn't happen until around 10 a.m. And then we'll have a better read on if the futures are going to bounce or not. Yeah, Amazon's been, well, yeah, we've been talking about shorting this for a long time, daily, weekly, monthly. I'd call it neutral pre-market. This NWS, it's making the turn at the 50. And look, now it's gapping up, but it's a gap and crap on the 15-minute chart. So we got to watch a pullback. This NTNX, wow, that was a nice breakout over here. Gapping down, way the heck down here. I was hoping it would gap down to the 200, but this is a gap and snap candidate. Nilly's been on our list for a while, and it's doing exactly what I want. Go sideways at resistance, then if it breaks out, target 200. MTH is another home builder watch of mine, but DHI is still better. Mr. one of these Bitcoin kind of related stocks. We'll see if it can make a turn here, and then possibly for Monday. Momo, I'm hoping can go sideways for a couple days. Madogle, this was one that we shorted the $30 puts before the gap up, and look at this thing, just man, this thing kept going. So now it's a topping tail and gapping under yesterday's low. This is a beautiful 30-minute low. You can short it, day trade. I'd be afraid shorting this bio overnight, although the pattern is totally there. But we could short a, there's no options that expired today, but there are for next week. They're pretty spready, but let's keep an eye on this for a bear call credit spread for next week. Limner, why am I watching you? Oh, you had earnings. I don't know if this is real, but gap down, fill in the gap. I don't know, that's a big mess. LANV, this recent Chinese IPO. I like watching IPOs, see if we can get a tradable pattern. I just noticed JetBlue going by the ticker, and I'm like, what? $6.40? And so I had to look at the chart because I remember it above 8. And so yeah, JetBlue is, again, is the opposite of DHI. This one, it's relative weakness to the sector, and there's no pattern here. We were looking at, I always look at hotels, cruise ships, Hilton. Hilton might be getting in. These could be put spread candidates if they can. All right, Marriott's down a lot. Let's put Marriott on the list for put spread, because Marriott does have weeklies, the other ones don't. ALNY, ascending triangle breakout. That looks good. Debbie pronounces it a little differently than I do. Beaky over yesterday's high is a go. Boyle, this thing, this is the levered natural gas. It looks horrible, daily, weekly, monthly. Box, over today's Friday, over Wednesday's high, I like. Camp, hey, there's a 1, 2, 3. That's a quality 1, 2, 3 right there. So somebody wants to watch that for us. DGX is also a quality 1, 2, 3. We're already in it though, but that looks fantastic. Donuts, a Climo. Look how far from the 20 this is. That is a climactic buy setup. I see a couple dots here pre-market, so I'm not sure what it's doing, but we'll come back to you. EDU is a climactic sell setup. Same with that Madogle. But this one, I'm wanting to get on board on a pullback. Look at that massive inverse head and shoulders on the weekly. I'm sorry, monthly. Yeah, let me make these things smaller. TradeStation downloaded the new version on me here on this laptop. All right, so that I'm wanting a control. Whoa, that volume was in my ear. That was loud. All right, look, this could be a day trade short, 5-minute low. It's a Climo. A coin. Russell, tell me what you're thinking. It's beat up too much for me with a bottoming tail. All right, let me shut down YouTube. YouTubers, have a fantastic holiday. Good trading today, and we'll see you Mondays off. Equity